Hi, my name is Kevin Smith and I'm an applications engineer with Agilent Technologies. This is part 2 in my arbitrary waveforms with Agilent 3000X series oscilloscopes. Previously, we saw how to capture generate and capture a AM waveform with the education kit and the arbitrary waveform generator, and generate that waveform too. Today, we're just going to work with the probe compensation port and show you some things that can happen and how to correct for them. As always, we start with default setup, and we're going to default the waveform generator too. Alright, so we've defaulted it. I've got channel 1 hooked to the probe compensation port, and I'm going to do a simple auto scale. Okay, I'm going to single trigger the scope. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit, see what our waveform looks like. Our waveform looks pretty good on that edge, so let's take it back there. Alright, and let's go back to the time scale that we captured at in the first place. Okay, so let's go to our WaveGen. We're going to select arbitrary. Okay, we're going to edit waveform, source to arb. Okay, great. Now I'm going to simply disconnect my probe from the channel and hook up the BNC cable from the waveform generator output to channel 4, and I will hit auto scale. Okay, so we found our waveform on channel 4. Let's single trigger the scope and let's zoom in a little. Hey, that doesn't look so good. What's going on? Let's take a look. Let's go to the waveform generator. We're going to edit the waveform, and if we look, we have individual steps. If we get rid of these steps, we should be able to sharpen up the edge. Okay, so we're going to edit this existing waveform, and mostly I'm going to do this from the front panel in the interest of time here, and I'm going to select points, fine, and then with the small selector knob I'm going to go to that next point, and I'm going to hit remove point, this guy, the soft key menu, a few times until I've really cleaned up that edge. Now I want to go back to not so fine scale on the points, which I can do by hitting that soft key twice. And now with the selector knob, whoop, went too far. Okay, I'm going to go back to fine. I want to go to each edge and start removing the clunky points. Basically, I'm telling the output of this guy to drive these edges as fast as possible. All right, so I'm going to remove points again, and I want to back up, make sure I get rid of all the points I really don't want. Remove point, remove point. Okay, again, back to coarse number of points, and I've got a few more edges to delete. Remove point, remove point, remove point, remove point, and I want to back up one. I see I left one there. Remove point again. Okay. Again, coarse. Fine again. Navigate to the no good points. And remove some more points. And I see at the very end I have one more edge I need to clean up. Perfect. Remove points, remove points, remove points, remove points, remove point. All right, great. And in fact, there might even be another edge there, and that's okay. This waveform is already being output, so we're going to auto scale our signal. Okay, great. In run mode, this looks great. Let's zoom in a little bit. Okay, now I've got pretty darn clean edges, but I see that there's still this goop, there's still this droop. It's no good. We don't want that there. We want a square wave. Okay, so what we're going to do again, really what we should do is we're going to start back over again. Okay, so I'm going to disconnect my waveform output, and instead of editing the waveform, we're going to capture it a little bit more carefully in the first place. So I'm going to auto scale the scope. Okay, and what I want to do here is I want to single trigger the scope. I'm going to push my horizontal for vernier control, vernier time scale control. And really what I want to do is capture exactly, or as close as possible, to a single cycle. And you can see on the left, I just barely have some of that falling edge. Okay, that's probably fine. I want to move it just off, and I'd rather catch the falling edge on the right-hand side of the screen. Okay, now if I go WaveGen, source to Arb, all right. And what we see here is that we've only caught one cycle, okay? And we're going to edit this waveform, and we're going to start cleaning up this edge again, just like we did previously. Excellent. And we'll clean up that leading rise edge.
You don't sound like
After we clean up this rise edge, we'll take a look at the output waveform, and it should be very clean indeed. Okay, so I've finished editing that waveform. One thing I want to point out while we're here, though, is you see this digitization? Basically, what's going on here is because of the noise on the scope trace, when I said source to waveform, this shows up as basically as digitizations in the output waveform. So if we used averaging acquisition mode to acquire this waveform, that would go a long ways to get rid of that. But for now, let's take a look at what we've just made. I put my signal back to channel 4. All right, let's go to a longer time scale. Let's turn up the intensity for everyone. And we see that we have a very nice, very clean edge, and we don't have any of this double edge behavior. So we've made a nice, clean, square wave with an acquired signal. Thank you for your attention.